Welcome back to another episode of Raul's World of Synths. I am Raul. Today we're going to be wrapping up the A144 Morph Controller series. This time I thought it would be interesting to kind of sort of review some of the stuff we did in the past as far as using the Morph Controller, but to kind of take a little twist on it. If you watched, I think it was the first audio demonstration, or maybe it was the second one, we did a sort of morphing between various waveforms using our A135. But I thought it would be interesting to just kind of do a more interesting example. So this time around, we're going to be incorporating the A135 with the A144 Morph Controller, but we are going to be feeding it 4 different affected signals. Now, these signals are going to be coming from a VCO right up here, our A110, sort of situated right there. But I'm going to be triggering it with some notes. Down here at the bottom, you can see my A155 analog trigger sequencer. I'm going to be taking some notes out of here, feeding them through a quantizer, back up to the A110, and then sending that A110 to a few different places. And then that will go over to the quad VCA. I'm going to break this last one up into 2 parts. So one of them is going to be the setup of this patch, because that might take us, about 6-7 minutes, maybe a little more, depending on how fast I can patch and explain. And then in the next segment, we'll kind of just explore the patch, do a little bit of wrap up, and then conclude the A144 series. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to get my CV signals from my A155 over here. And since I already have kind of a patch over here that I use whenever I'm switching between the upper and the lower A155, I'm just going to take the pre-out right here, which is basically the notes pre-glide from the A155. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to feed it right over to my A156, right there, CV in. And then I'm going to take that CV in right over here. Sorry about the bump there. And I'm going to take that and go up into the A110. So let me get a longer cable. So there we go, CV out, up to A110, piping into CV1. And then now we're going to kind of take it out to the various effects. So let's see, where do we want to start? Let's go ahead and take our sine wave. Or actually, no, let's just leave sine wave out for now. Let's take triangle wave. And we'll take that and go over to the BBD module right here. There we go. And then we're going to take the pulse wave right here. And we're going to go over to our bit modifier right there in the center. Or bit crusher, however you want to think about it. Then we're going to take the saw wave. And we're going to go over into our WAS filter. And since this guy has actually 2 different outputs, the band pass out and the low pass, high pass out, I'm going to be utilizing both of those in our A135 down here. So that'll save me a little bit of cables there. And over here on the right, you might have noticed the low pass filter just kind of hanging out. I might need to utilize this here in a little bit since the BBD, occasionally you can really hear the clock noise coming from there. So we'll just kind of keep that in the back of our mind as we're going forward. So let me start, I guess, with the band pass out. And I'm going to kind of use the band pass and low pass, high pass out as sort of bookends on the A135 for when we morph. So I'm going to actually take that and go into, let me actually take a shorter cable, since I don't need that long one. Just going to take the band pass out and then go down into number 1. And then you should see what I mean here. So I'm going to take the low pass, high pass out, and I'm going to pipe it over into number 4. There we go. So there I have my my bookends, so to speak. Now I'm going to take my bit modifier output. So I'm going to go over to my signal out right there. And I'm just going to go, let's see, into number 3. And then we're going to take the output from the BBD over here, the mix out. And I'm going to go down to number 2. There we go. Okay, so our 4 signals are going over there. And if I turn up the gain, I should be able to hear something. So that's actually the bandpass. You can hear some very interesting movement right there. I'm going to speed up the pace just a little bit. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. I'll switch it to all and see what that sounds like. Okay, so we're listening to the number 1 over here. And then let's listen to number 2. Okay, and that's our BBD over here. Let's do a little bit of affecting. I'm going to increase the original signal a little bit. There we go. Kind of like that. Feedback's a little high, so let me bring that down a little. That's better. All right, now let's turn that down. Now let's go over to this guy right here. It's our bit modifier, obviously. That one's really hard to distinguish what's going on there, so let's try to do some adjusting there. Now, let me see if I can find a more subtle effect there. Now, this one's a little bit wild, so see if I can subdue it a little bit. Try a different preset. That actually sounds like another little delay. So it may actually be the delay preset there. So we'll start there. And I'm going to turn that down. And then now, or actually I should have just turned this down. Bring that back. Because we'll need that at about the uniform level a little bit later. So let's hear the last one. This should be our low pass, high pass out. Pretty standard. Okay, so I think we've got a good starting point at any rate. And now, let's go ahead and get our morph controller outputs going down to our quad VCA. So I'm just going to turn this guy down. And then we'll take out the output number 4 and just kind of keep it easy to remember. So it's going to go down to CV input number 4. And then we're going to take output number 3. And of course down to input number 3. And I think that happens to be the one I'm dialed in on right there. Number 2, out from number 2. Now you can hear both, and more than likely that's because they are sort of in that place where they're overlapping, where 2 and 3 are overlapping a little bit. So So now let me take output 1, go down to input number 1. Okay, well, let's just try now our basic manual morphing. So I'll just adjust this. So right there we should have the first one, band pass out. And right there we should have a little bit of band pass and a little bit of, I believe that's the BBD. Yes, BBD. And then number 3 is going to be our bit modifier. So this should be a little bit of BBD and a little bit of bit crusher. And those sound a little bit too close, so let me change down to one of the first couple of presets. Just to kind of get more of a contrast going right there. There we go. So that is just our bit crusher signal. So I'm pretty happy with that. Although I would like to adjust maybe just the bit crush level. Okay, just right there. There we go. Let me morph to the last one. That's the low pass, high pass out. Okay. So that's our basic manual morphing. Here we are at 0, so we can't hear anything. And then we go to output number 1, which is opening this VCA. Then right there we have the BBD and the band pass out. Right there we have a little bit of the bit crush. What I might actually do for that one is, since that's number 3, I believe, let me bring the gain down a little bit. So it's just kind of a little bit filler right there. Okay. So that is going to be the basic patch that we're going to be kind of playing around with here for a little bit. I'm going to stop right there for part 1, and then in the next one we'll explore this patch a little bit further, and maybe even get some modulation happening with our morph controller over here to kind of adjust it and see if we can get it to move through the 4 different patches right there, or effects, however you want to think about them. I personally was kind of thinking of them as like almost like moving through different presets, if you like. Just way more cables than, you know, in computer DAWs you have buttons that let you flip through them. At any rate, that's going to be the end of part 1. So please join us next time where we kind of explore this patch a little bit and delve a little further. Thanks for watching.